Welcome to Car Sales Talk 101, where it's all about life in the car business. Telling you like it is. Here's the man with the plan, Terry Cameron. Let's get started.
Welcome back to Car Sales Talk 101. I'm Terry Cameron. Thanks for hanging out again with me today. This week, I'm going to talk about how to get better at what you're doing and not just get stale. But before we start on that, I want to read a message that I got from Jason. Jason says he took a week off to visit his brother. He was on vacation to begin September, and after selling 23 cars in August, he came back. All of his other coworkers had 6 or 7 cars sold, and he was still at 0. He said it was tough. He had to tell himself I took a week off when what I'm experiencing is normal. So he spent a lot of time talking to himself and just tried to focus on the next customer to keep doing what's right and what needs to be done. As I say, 100% of the process to 100% of the people 100% of the time. He said, but sometimes seeing other people leading the board gets him frustrated. How should I move forward and finish strong? Well, this isn't probably something that Jason wants to hear, but, I think it might be too late. I mean, if you're just getting off vacation and you didn't do any planning prior to vacation, well, that's what's hurting you. I remember years ago taking a vacation. Actually, it was the first time that I took a 2-week vacation, back-to-back, 2 weeks, back-to-back in the car business. And I still sold the same amount of cars. Again, I listened to previous or other trainers that told me what to do, and they said to plan for that. So, Jason, it's not too late. You're going to turn around. If you're selling 23 cars, you're going to continue to sell them. You just got to get back on the right track. But what you need to do the next time, and guys, what I'm telling everybody here, is if you're going to go on vacation, if you're going to take some time off, you need to plan for things to happen the day you get back. So the phone calls that you're making when you get back are already scheduled. It wouldn't even hurt to talk to some people before you leave and let them know that you're going to be out of town. You'll be back on a certain day and try to schedule appointments for those days. It's also a good time to reach out and ask for referrals and reach out to those referrals. And you can go back in some of the episodes and figure out how to get the referrals, some easy ways to do it. But you have to set up the month, the week, the day before you go on vacation. You have to set that up so when you get back, you don't have to start from scratch. You always have to keep something in the hopper. You always have to have people to contact, to call. You need to look at your database. Remember, your CRM can be an ATM if you use it the right way. So get on the phones. Do everything you need to do that you did before to sell 23 cars, but try to do it before you go on vacation and have a plan for when you get back. Too many times I have people that come back off of a long weekend maybe. They took 3 or 4 days off. Or even the day after, they come back after their normal day off, and now they want to ask me questions about the customer that was there 2 days ago. Well, it wasn't important on your day off, so why are you asking me about it now? Don't expect anybody to jump through hoops to help you if you're not helping yourself. So, you're back from vacation. And you don't have any plans, you just got to get on the phones. The main thing you have to do is don't give up, because that's what a lot of salespeople do. They give up right away. If they don't get results immediately, like right now, right after that phone call, they make 10 phone calls, they don't get any appointments, nobody's coming in, well, it must not be working, so they quit. That's wrong. So I'm reading a book called Intentional Mindset. It's by Dave Anderson, and I really highly recommend it. And in this book, Dave talks about some fictional characters that are in there, but when he talks about them, I can pick those people out on my showroom immediately, exactly who they're talking about, just maybe a different name. And he talks about Frances. And Frances was new in the business. She didn't know how to prospect or follow up. Among other things, nothing that she had to do was necessarily mandatory. But she had a why, and which was a sick daughter, and she needed to work hard so she could take care of her sick daughter. She made calls. This is during the pandemic. This is time away from the dealership. She made calls. She kept on sending emails. Even though she didn't feel comfortable doing all these things, she kept doing it. Eventually, she learned how to do them and honed those phone call skills, those email skills, those text skills, and the basic prospecting skills. She honed them until they were just natural and sincere. So that difficult task she had before with her prospecting was no longer difficult. It was just natural. You see, again, most salespeople expect results immediately. If they don't see them, they give up. And I remember talking to one of my salespeople. First name was Clint. And we talked about how to get referrals. We even had a couple training classes on it. And we talked about it in my podcast. And Clint tried it, but he quit. He thought, wow, this is brilliant. This has got to work. So he told me, he says, Terry, man, I didn't have any problem getting them. I just didn't feel comfortable calling them. So he quit. Well, anything that you do that is new, if it's worthwhile, it is going to feel uncomfortable. You just have to keep on doing it till it becomes comfortable. I always refer back to the game of golf. I'm a baseball player, and holding a baseball bat and holding a golf club, two different grips, totally different grips. And when you first start playing golf, at the very beginning, that grip is so awkward. But it doesn't take long if you keep on practicing it to where that grip is natural. And not necessarily always, but you hit the ball a little bit better. At least you should. So don't give up just because it's not working right away. You got to keep on practicing. You got to get comfortable and confident by practicing. And those tasks, of making 5 to 10, turning 5 or 10 calls into 15 and 20 calls become easy when they're comfortable to do. And you know what? When you're confident and sincere and they are comfortable, then you actually see the advantage. You start seeing the appointments. You start seeing the sales. You start seeing your gross come up. You start seeing how easy it is to sell cars because you're practicing them. And they become perfect plans on producing perfect sales. And I always talk about to salespeople, if you take the numbers, the statistics, and I believe this 100% that people lie, numbers don't. So I buy into the statistics. And I always tell my salespeople that if you put all these numbers together that we talk about, how many phone calls you make, if you make this many phone calls, you make this many contacts, you get this many referrals, this many sales are going to happen. If you take this many ups and you do this many demos and you do so many write-ups, you're going to sell so many cars. It's so easy to figure out. And they always seemed really high. Oh, excuse me, my grandfather clock is reminding me that it's almost time for dinner. But what I want you to do is, when I tell my salespeople that these numbers are real. I mean, if you do all this stuff, they come out high. They come out 25, 30, 35 cars a month. That's if they do what they're supposed to do. And of course, they don't believe it. So I tell them, if it sounds too high, cut it in half. So if it's 30 cars and that sounds too high and you're currently selling 10 cars, well, cut that 30 in half. Just continue to work hard. And now you're going to sell 15 cars. And let me tell you this, if you're selling 10 cars, 5 more cars will make a difference in your paycheck and your lifestyle. So here's a little twist on that. I also say, take what you're doing right now. How many phone calls are you making? How many emails are you sending? How many referrals are you calling? How many you're asking for? Well, take that number and double it. So if you're selling 10 or 12, which is the average salesperson, if you're selling 10 or 12 cars a month and you're only making 10 or 12 phone calls a week or contacts a week, imagine what would happen if you made 25 or 30. Just double it. And chances are your sales are going to double. But don't get hasty. Don't think just because you decided to up your call count that you're going to immediately double your sales and your income, because chances are that's not going to happen. You just got to get used to doing it. And if you do it over and over and over again, you'll see those results. They'll start happening. So If you're going on vacation, what I want you to do before you leave is plan for your return. Make the phone calls, call everybody, schedule appointments for the day that you come back, even if it's an appointment just to come in and have a car appraised. You just have to have somebody in front of you, because if you don't have somebody sitting in front of you, and if you're not telling your story, they can't hear your story, they can't buy from you, they can't send referrals to you. The number one thing I want you to take away from this episode is just don't quit. Keep doing what you're doing. And if you're not satisfied, then get better at it and double it. Or if you want to sell more cars, just double it. Do like Francis said, an intentional mindset, and continue to make those calls until you become confident and comfortable with them. You'll see how easy it is. And I mean this. It's a piece of cake. Doubling your income does not mean you have to double your work. It just means you have to fine tune it and work a little bit harder and get a little bit better at what you're doing. Jason, I hope I answered your question. And if anybody else has any questions like that I can answer, just give me a call. You know how to reach me. At the lady at the end, she'll go ahead and give you my email address. Remember, the sky's the limit. And I'll see you in a week or two.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode. Please rate it and write a review on Apple Podcast. We appreciate your valuable feedback. You can email Terry at 10minutessalestalk@hot.rr.com. And don't forget to share the show with a friend.